Big Show, award-winning chef, Chef JJ Johnson, also author of Between Harlem and Heaven. Here to talk about how to basically establish yourself both as yourself and your brand, and some other secrets we're going to pick his brain about coming up soon. Good morning, Chef JJ. Good morning, Catherine.
Hello.
How is everyone today?
Doing great.
Hungry after watching that intro video.
I'm with you.
So thanks for being with us, Chef JJ. We know you are a very busy man. To kind of get a glimpse into your background and get the ball rolling here, first off, to kind of background me with Chef JJ, I met Chef JJ about 2 years ago. Now, in COVID time, that could be plus or minus 6 months because everything's like a blur, right, with COVID, but it was somewhere around that period of time, and it was at a food event. And I remember someone came up to me and they were like, Chef JJ is about to come up to you. He doesn't have much time. Be very quick. And like basically like scared me, right? And I'm not the kind to get like nervous or intimidated. And I was like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And then like, and I knew who you were because my friend had gifted me your book recently. And I had succeeded and butchered some of your recipes already at that time. But you came up to me and you were just like the most humble and like down to earth, and like it was just like such a breath of fresh air. And seeing kind of where like everything you've accomplished. So I mentioned in the intro, you're a James Beard award-winning chef. Like that is huge. You were on Forbes 30 under 30 at one point, which was always one of my personal life goals. You were on Selena Gomez's cooking show. You have your own show. You have all these accomplishments, right? And the thing is, and not to like come off offensive in any way, but so many chefs work in great restaurants in New York City, San Francisco, elsewhere, but they don't get to the point where you're at. So if you could give us like a little like glimpse into like your stepping stones, your mentality to how you got to where you are now.
Well, Corinne, it's great to see you. Wish we were hanging out like we did that one day.
I know.
And thanks everybody for having me on the show. My career started in my grandma's kitchen at a really young age. And that's where I got this love for food, watching food be at the center of the table. And I wanted to be a chef my whole life. I told my parents at a very young age I was going to be a chef. And my first job was a dishwasher, riding my bike to a country club. I grew up in Northeast Pennsylvania. So I would ride my bike to the country club on the weekends that I worked. And then I went off to culinary school at Culinary Institute of America. And I worked in kitchens. I had good moments. I had bad moments. I burned a lot of stuff. I cut my finger. I did a lot of typical things you would do as a chef or cook or beginner in the space. And there was a point in my career where I kind of was hitting a brick wall. I wasn't getting an opportunity to really be at the helm of anybody's kitchen. And I went on a small cooking show called Rocco's Dinner Party. I was lucky enough to win that episode. That show's not around anymore. And then I got contacted by a gentleman named Alexander Smalls, who was opening a restaurant in Harlem called the Cecil. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time that I actually got a shot to really run a kitchen, express myself through food. Um, and I really grabbed it with all my might and put all my blood, sweat, and tears into that restaurant. And I think that was the first moment where I started to get recognized for the food that I was cooking. And I think some of the interviews that I was doing, people were seeing my personality on interviews. Um, and then I got tapped to do certain things.
Definitely. And, jumping right towards marketing, you're one of the most successful, chefs that I see, doing it, and restaurant owner. You again have established yourself both as a brand as Chef JJ, and you've established, your business, online. At what point, when you were developing, whether it was, Chef JJ, Field Trip, did you realize, marketing is going to be a huge piece of this? And like, would you say any pitfalls? What was kind of like your process to coming to and finding your voice?
Yeah, I think as I started to develop, I realized that marketing is a big line item, right? If we look at like very big companies in the in the world, they are consistently marketing to us, right? They're consistently staying fresh. Um, I mean, I always think of McDonald's, right? They're genius at marketing. They make you feel like this. It's like this new restaurant consistently opening up that makes people go there and eat. So I would say later on in my career, right now, I invest heavily in marketing on the personal side for JJ, and now moving forward with Field Trip, really going to bring in somebody for Field Trip, my fast casual restaurant, to focusing on marketing for the brand, which is very different than PR. A lot of people
Right.
think that PR and marketing are the same thing. They're
There you
two
go.
different items.
Yes.
So the best advice I try to give people that are cooking, like always believe in the food. Without the food, I wouldn't be who I am. There are a lot of people on television that never worked in a kitchen, never, never, they don't know how to sling pots and pans. They don't know any of that. They don't know how to read a ticket. They don't know what food costs is, labor costs. They don't know the blood, sweat, and tears. There are a lot of them, right? And that's just their lane. But I think for me, the most successful players in the space, if we look over from start to finish, they're in restaurants and they're on TV. And the TV is a marketing component to drive people back to their restaurants.
Yeah, I know, like, again, because I follow you on social media, and you constantly, do give advice to new chefs, new restaurateurs. And we were just talking before the show started about you recently doing the US Open, and it wasn't your first time, and you had been asked back, and how wonderful that was. But I believe in somewhere on your, it might have been Instagram on the Chef JJ account, like you mentioned, like taking advantage of opportunities like that, and using them as stepping stones to create something bigger.
Yeah, I mean, I worked for Restaurant Associates. I was a sous chef for them, Morgan Stanley Executive Dining Room. I became very close with a gentleman named Ed Brown, who is a very renowned chef in the country. He used to have Ed's Chowder House and a couple other places, and then became the president of Restaurant Associates. And I went to him when I was starting Field Trip and said, "Hey, I got this great concept that I think will work really well here." And he said, "Well, put together a deck, give me a presentation." Right. So everything just doesn't happen. People just think things happen because they see it on Instagram.
Yep.
There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of things happening. And I wanted pitching to him, wanted pitching to USTA. USTA signed off on it. And we had Field Trip while Field Trip in Harlem was being built at that time. And they have been really great partners to myself, to Field Trip. Um, and it has helped me understand food in a different lane. I've never done vendorship in my whole life. The
Right.
first time we ever did. Every year I go there, I learn something new. So, um, so yeah, putting the work in I think has been able to get me to this point right now.
Definitely. And I mean, you just kind of touched on it. Field Trip opened pretty much right before, just as COVID hit, right? And yet we saw it thrive. I mean, you've opened, I know the Rockefeller location, and is there a third location either coming or opened?
Yeah, we opened Rockefeller Center. We opened up in a small food hall in Long Island City, as well. We opened up those locations during COVID, which was really rough on us, but really took a shot to try to have a footprint in the New York City dining scene for the future. Also see what it was like to help rebuild a community in Midtown, right? A
Right.
community that's not there anymore. And if you know me, I'm about the community
Yeah.
and being a part of like really pushing it forward. And now I think as things come back, people come to Rockefeller Center and they're like, "Oh wow, where'd you come from? I never had this before. This is
Yeah.
amazing. These flavors." Or when new tourists come, I think will be a big destination for tourist eaters at Rockefeller Center and the culture that's coming through there as this very cultural eatery. But yeah, we have 3 locations or 3.5 locations with US Open. Hopefully more locations to come in the future. But just taking it slow and steady. And I believe I call Field Trip like the 92 Chipotle. This concept that is helping change the way fast food or fast casual or quick service will look like in the next 10 years.
All right. So another marketing question. How you touched on tourism. How are you and your team attracting those tourists? I mean, I know a lot of our customers are going to want to hear that. They're fearful. They're scared of starting marketing, starting social media. How do we attract an audience? How do we keep an audience? But with tourism coming back in and up, and what is your team doing for a strategy on attracting and making sure that you captivate that audience and bring them back and have them communicate and lift up your brand?
So for me, one of the most important things that we do with a company called Orderies. We comment on every review that comes through the door.
I'm clapping. Like
Yes, so
right
am I.
Yeah.
Yeah, every review that comes through the door, we comment on, right?
Because good and bad, right? You don't just do the bad ones.
Right.
Exactly.
Good and bad, right? So like commenting on that good review makes people feel special.
Yep.
And they're like, "Ooh, I want to come back." Especially in this
even if they're not that person, if there's someone else seeing that you replied, they're like, "Oh shit." You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Customers are really valued at this establishment.
And especially you might have not been able to touch your customers or see them in a long time.
Yep.
You've been ordering delivery. I said whoever starts to comment on third-party delivery, because I personally comment on all third-party delivery, like Seamless, you can go in there and Grubhub and comment saying thank you for coming in. We say see you next trip. That allows you to have your old customers stay new or consistent, but somebody traveling gets that response from you on TripAdvisor or Yelp. They then tell their friends when they're traveling, "Hey, go to this place Field Trip."
Yeah.
They comment, "Look at this. Look, they wrote me," right?
It extends the experience.
Exactly. So that's one thing we do. And now, I think as a future, when we're looking at social media, we're trying to figure out who we will be on social media. Are we Instagram? Are we TikTok? Are we Facebook still? I think Facebook you can use to target. You can actually target people on paid ads. We've never done that. That's something that we're going to start doing in the future. And then I've been watching what Chipotle has been doing on TikTok to use to get for hiring, but also using from a marketing perspective. We might go into that world. So we're trying to use social media. But for me, the biggest thing is building a mailing list and SMS texting. Those two hit home always.
Definitely. And would you say that through all these different areas of marketing, whether it's the social media, the commenting on reviews, the SMS, email marketing, yes, you're there at the business day to day, as much as you can be, with your customers, but it helps you get to really know who your customer base is and who you're targeting.
I muted myself because there was a noise. Yes, that all that 100% allows you to really do that. I think, we're going to run surveys coming up. I think surveys to your customers are good to understand where are they coming from. What do they do before they come to field trip? Where are they going when they're leaving field trip, right? Those things help us, I think, also from an expansion standpoint. Are they ordering with their families? Are they just ordering solo? All those things help us out as the time comes, which is really, really important. But I think the future of marketing is SMS. I'm starting it on the JJ brand side. I'm using a service called Superphone, where you can text me directly with a different phone number that's been created, and hopefully that helps me build databases in different markets. So if I'm going to do a book tour in Miami, I can text everybody in Miami saying, "I'm coming to do a book tour. Hope you show up." And I see a lot of musical artists using Superphone or Community.
Yeah, definitely. I see that as well. And then, so I know you've mentioned somewhat about how your team is structured. So I want to point out to everybody, and they've probably gathered it by now, you use an array of different tools, obviously. So, and I am going to show, I don't know when we have to cut to commercial. I haven't gotten the alert yet, but I will show it briefly. You have Orderies, right? You have the tools of the Orderies, the team at Orderies, but then you also have your team. And then you also post a lot of videos where I don't know if you use your cell phone, but you're probably just this, you know what I mean? And you get involved in your own content, you show what you're doing in the community. Like you said, you're very community based. So it's kind of like a trifecta approach. I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel that's why there's no holes, in your marketing strategy.
There's always holes, Corinne. For me, there's tons of holes, a lot of holes. But yeah,
learning blocks.
I'm just trying to figure out what works. I think everything works different for somebody else. I think that Orderies for us as an early on company was a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Being able to do things that we weren't able to do because we're very small, we were gritty. And when you work with a company like Orderies, which is also a startup in a phase and growing, they also understand your struggles, right? So they're like, hold on, I can help you here, or you need that. I never thought about that before. So,
right. And we're so our owners at Orderies, my direct boss, is from the restaurant industry, and 90% of our employees work in or work at restaurants, so we literally understand, you know what I mean? I think that also really kind of helps to, what you're saying.
You can't. At one point, you need people around you that understand the food business, so you guys can all talk the same language. There's a language that's created here.
Yes.
And then I think at one point, you do need people outside of the food space that can help you progress to something else. I think I was doing a Shake Shack collab recently.
Which I saw. You have a Shake Shack burger. What is it named after you? Your own Shake Shack burger.
Branding. Keep that branding.
Seriously.
But it was interesting to be in Shake Shack and be in the kitchen. And I'm like, what do you guys do? What do you use this for? Why is this? And they do
asking questions. Yeah.
You got to ask questions to progress, right? And when they first brought on their first HR person, they brought somebody from outside the industry because Danny Meyer and team were like, okay, it's too much of us, too much restaurant people. We need somebody that can help push us forward. So they hired somebody in HR from outside the restaurant industry, which they believe was that turning point for them to look at food and people and things a lot different.
Fresh set of eyes. I could see that.
So, I mean, I think anybody that's watching, if you're in the restaurant industry, you have a restaurant and you're trying to build a website, you're trying to do marketing and you don't have the budget, you're like, okay, what can I do? You should be looking to the outside. And potentially for me, it just happened to be right underneath the Cisco platform. Who knew Cisco had a marketing partner? So a lot of things that you just got to peel back the onions and ask the right questions to the right folks to get you to potentially where you need to be, or you'll just be stuck in that same area.
That is key. And we've talked about that. And I talk about that when I go to new customers or current customers, whatever that might be, about the fear. Where do I start? How do I begin? I have this problem. I have this need. And then it kind of just, the fear takes over and everybody stops. Or maybe they sign up with the wrong partner, or they don't search, or they don't know. So just being able to ask the right questions and know who to turn to, I mean, that's so important. Just start somewhere. Know there will be those holes that we talked about. Know there will be mistakes and creative lessons and learning. But you're right. Like, just get involved with as much as possible and just ask. There's no harm.
Stay humble.
Seeing where
You know what I mean?
Stay humble. Yes.
Stay humble. All right, we're going to cut to commercial now just because I want to get it over with. And then we'll be right back. And I'll show I just want to show what Chef JJ has to work with on our platform, and then talk over some kind of more of the through COVID stuff, and end with some, keynote suggestions, for your guys' takeaways.
Our table is set, and we have a seat just for you. At Cisco, we love what we do, and that is delivering success for our customers through industry-leading people, products, and solutions. Our team is the difference between good customer relationships and great ones. Your dedicated sales consultant is here to help you grow your business. They will connect you with the products, solutions, and insights you need to grow your profits, streamline your operations, and market your business. They'll offer you customized consultations with our chefs and industry specialists to answer your questions and inspire you. Our specialists can help with protein, fresh local produce, takeout and delivery solutions, and more. And if you simply need someone to answer a quick question, our Customer Connect team is just a phone call or chat message away. Cisco is at the heart of food and service and connecting the world to share food and care for one another. Join us for a seat at the table. Visit cisco.ca to learn more.
And we're back. So I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen briefly. It'll probably show my face within my face. It'll be a little inception going on. Yeah, geez. Okay, so here is the field trip site. So I want to show this first on my desktop, and then I want to show it on my phone. And then this, again, you've kept separate from the Chef JJ brand, because I can't emphasize enough how important it is for other chefs, restaurateurs to do this. Build yourself up as a brand as you build your business. Both need to exist and be successful. So these are your sites. Now, with Orderies, Chef JJ can literally call our team. You can ask him and, throw us a bunch of content. We'll put it up immediately for him. Our sites have unlimited content. The menus can be customized to look like your exact in-house menus. It's a very flexible platform. You can even make your own changes if you wanted to. I want to show it on a phone as well. So here we've got my phone with my little daughter's face on it. She's been begging me since this show started to be on, so I'm going to tell her this technically counts. Shout out Maya. And so I'm going to pull up the mobile version. So looks exactly the same, right? Just condensed down. And then also showing, so Chef JJ has the full use of our team for posting. Again, he handles a lot of his own posting. His team does. He's very involved in his community. So there's things that our team can't necessarily do for him because, he's there, he's in it. But to show you the back end of the site, if Chef JJ, one of his team members, wanted to, they can just log in. They have the ability to post to all social media, like, share, comment on these. He spoke to the reviews. So all his reviews funnel in from TripAdvisor, Zomato, all across the web into this dashboard as well. And it just takes clicking on the review to respond, or Orderies can do it for him. And then email marketing, website stats, any service he has with us is tied to that dashboard, allowing him to have full access to those tools. Like I said, since he does have a multifaceted marketing strategy, or having our team do it for him.
And I think it's a great way, like if you have both, right? You can say to, like for us, might not be using Orderies for social posting right now, but if somebody then falls off from the team, I can email them and say, hey, I need some help over the next 3 weeks. They jump right back into it. But they know for me, my biggest thing is like commenting, reviews, helping us with SEOs, with the website. So for everybody is different. But when you have somebody in a team with so much expertise in the food space, it really helps you grow your business.
Definitely. And I'm looking at questions I wrote down beforehand to make sure I ask every single question that I want to. Catherine, feel free to jump in if there's any.
I mean, I can pick your brain about reviews. It's just one of the biggest things that I talk to customers about is the audience for reviews. People tend to think it's just like a one-on-one when really it's the outside audience that's looking in on how you're responding back, if you're responding back. So Corinne and I haven't done an episode, but we're going to do an entire episode based around reviews and responding to reviews, because it's free advertisement. And PR and marketing all rolled up into one avenue. So I'm glad that you talked about that.
Yeah, and if you look at it, like Field Trip Harlem has 200 and I'm looking at it right now. I was talking 232 reviews. I want to say like 215 have been replied to.
Yeah,
right.
Positive, negatives. For me, positive is even better than negative to be responding, because those are the people you want to show you care about, and they come back. Our other locations don't have that many reviews yet, like Rockefeller Center.
Of course, right, yeah.
Rockefeller Center, I think, has 11 reviews, but we responded, all 11 are responded to, right? Because Orderies is on our team, and I'm looking at just so people understand, because they're like,
always, just for people out there that feel they don't get enough reviews, you can incentivize customers to leave reviews without, giving some major discount, like simply asking, whether it's, you have one of those cards on the takeout bag, anything, people just need to be reminded sometimes that that's a thing, you know what I mean? But before they get pissed off and get remembered, it's a thing, you know what I mean? Simply reminding people like, hey, did you enjoy your food? And actually with Orderies, if you use like our online ordering or something, people automatically get an email right after, did you enjoy your meal? So they're constantly reminded. So you just have to keep top of mind, with those things. And like JJ said, responding also helps with where you place in search results. So nowadays it's not like as meta tags, SEO as it used to be, because, of course, the human race found a way to take advantage of those things. So now Google, the newest algorithms are based off of how active you are on your appropriate channels. So for restaurants, your website, review sites, social media, not just having them, but being, engaging with customers on them. So it's going to do nothing but overall help placement, and then customer experience, extending, that memory that they have of your restaurant and keep them coming back, which is the ultimate goal.
Right.
Now, one thing I did want to talk about, we kind of should have talked about it when we brought up COVID, but you were one of the first that I saw doing like the whole meals to hospitals movement.
Yeah. I think I was the first. I don't
literally when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, how has no one else thought of this?
Well, my wife is a nurse, right? She wasn't
There
eating
you go. My mom is too. Well, she's retired, but
right.
nurse
So
as well.
she came home one night, said that she didn't eat all day. Did I have food from field trip or did I cook? It was literally 1:30 in the morning. She left at 5:30 in the morning the day before. I was like, what are you talking about? You didn't eat? She was
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's bananas in here. Of course I cooked for her, but the next day I sent her and her team some food, which she worked downtown Manhattan. And I was like, well, what about in Harlem? I wonder if they're feeling that same stress. So I went on to Twitter asking anybody if they had any family that worked at Harlem Hospital. Somebody said my aunt works in community affairs. An old GM that worked for me, wife was in her residency and the ER, and said, yeah, if you bring them some food, man, they'll love it. So we dropped 40 bowls off to her and her team. And I could see the smiles on the people's face when they came to grab the food. And they then when I left, I went back to Twitter and was like, hey, I think I was doing one of the best things in my life. I just dropped off 40 bowls to frontline workers or I didn't say frontline workers at the time, just nurses, doctors
Yeah.
at Harlem Hospital. Somebody from Arizona calls me and was like, JJ, my wife loves you. We want to match you on bowls. And I was like, what? Then somebody just dropped money into my Venmo account. Then somebody sent me money on Zelle. People on Facebook were sending I was like, this is insane. People on Twitter were like, I'll match you. And we built this buy a bowl program.
It was amazing.
Also the bowl
Mhm.
and to bring back staff and to feed frontline workers. And we fed frontline workers through a lot of the pandemic, then stopped, started feeding people across the street that didn't have jobs, farmers boxes. And we kept going. And that moment was a very big turning point for Field Trip. And I think myself as a brand, that's when Tishman Spire came to me and said, hey, we see the work you're doing uptown. We have all these vacant spaces in Rockefeller Center. Do you want one? We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So that was like a very rewarding time for like hard work, taking care of people, to see somebody like Tishman, who they could call anybody up on the phone to give a restaurant space or any type of space.
Yeah.
They came to me and said, hey, I want you to be a part of this.
Yes. Sometimes just doing the next right thing, you get the next right place. I mean, I was like overwhelmed, like watching the posts and the stories. And like it made me get in contact with restaurants out here on Long Island, like, you know, and everyone started doing it, you know what I mean? And it was, like I said, you were the first person I saw do it. You inspired others. And in a way, like, obviously it wasn't the intention, but that was, it helped marketing wise in a way.
Tremendous helped a lot of marketing, tremendous way of marketing, a big way to get to know the community, to get to know us. I always say what we did in 3 to 4 months would have taken us 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. Now, before getting to our closing, we went over a lot today, and we've gotten a lot of great advice. Catherine and I definitely want to come into Field Trip, want to do more with you whenever you have time. But until next time, what advice would you give the restaurateur who they've made it through COVID, right? But maybe they're barely hanging on. They're having the labor issues, product shortages. They're wondering, you know, is it still worth pursuing my dream? Am I, you know, out of my mind at this point? You know, what would you say to that person?
I would say that COVID taught you one thing, which was how to use the word pivot. You kept pivoting to stay open, right? This is still an effect of COVID, right? Labor shortages, supply chain, price hikes, inflation, right? These are things that are coming out of COVID with the new world, whatever we want to call it. Keep pivoting until you find your groove. Don't give up, because you might not have pivoted in the right yellow brick road. You might have not found all the light yet. It still might be dark in your tunnel. But if you keep pivoting, if you keep thinking, what about this? What about that? How will that work? I think you'll get to it. and you will then you'll find your groove, and then you should market the heck out of that to be successful.
Definitely. I agree with that advice. I mean, what we saw with COVID was an influx of customers who in the past, even year before that, had told us we don't need a website, we don't need to do online ordering. And they realized how quickly, because not only did restaurants pivot, right, customers did. So, my dad, who is 77 years old, like, he places orders online now. And if he can't find that order online button on your website, like, he's going to the next place. Like, that's just how he is. So definitely, yeah, I agree with that. And I want to say that for any restaurateurs, restaurants, GMs that are out there listening to the show, if you contact Orderies with the promo code FREE21, we're going to offer you actually 90 days free website marketing, online ordering, and that dashboard that you just saw. So for 90 days, if you sign up before January 1, you'll have 3 months free to use it, take advantage of it, get yourself a step ahead. No contract, no obligation to stick with it if you don't want to. But we really want to see everybody get through this last, hopefully, don't want to get ahead of myself, but hopefully this last stretch of COVID.
Yeah. Hopefully we get through the last stretch of COVID. Hopefully there'll be, especially in New York, I hope there's an economic plan to build back the city. I think there's a lot of parts of the country. I was in Vegas recently. I'm looking where the people, where are the people in the street? It's not, I know they're saying they're making all this money, but that's only a couple of hotels. That's not all of it. So we all have a lot of work to do. And I think the greatest thing is food connects us all, and maybe food can rebuild the country.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
Seriously. And I recommend everybody follow Chef JJ on Instagram. Watch what he does, watch how he takes each opportunity presented, or that he goes out there and finds and uses it for marketing, for himself, for his business. It's even taught, us at Orderies a lot. So it's definitely something you should do. And then Chef JJ, what is next for you? I mean, any more books? Like, what's coming next? I've seen this,
I'm always working on something.
I've seen the teasers for you're doing, I can't think of the name, the thing on Saturday.
Oh, so Pepsi Dig-In Day.
Which is awesome.
We're doing a program to drive people to eat at a Black-owned restaurant.
Yep.
On November 6th. The goal is that, as you maybe not have Black restaurants in your repertoire of dining, that this helps you find a Black-owned restaurant, a minority-owned restaurant in your local community that you will start to support when you're thinking about takeout or dine-in. Black-owned restaurants through COVID have closed the most. About 41% of restaurants were Black-owned that have closed. So, on Saturday, get out. If you want to come to field trip, you can come hang out with us. If you're in Long Island, if you're anywhere in the country, there's a Black-owned restaurant there. You can go to the Pepsi Dig-In website, Pepsi Dig-In, put your zip code in. It will show you all of the Black-owned restaurants.
That's awesome.
In that area, yeah. So, but thanks for having me, and it's been a pleasure.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, we want you back sometime soon. We want to come into field trip. I want to get your oxtail recipes down at some point. So we got more work to do with you, and we'll hopefully see you soon. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today for Exposed. We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.